Good afternoon and welcome to the FX ForexAnalytix daily wrap-up video. And it's fairly quiet, and that's one of the reasons. One of the reasons why I thought it was better to have us have the daily wrap-up at this time, which is 12:30 Eastern. Not only quite often we have a lot of the European traders and U.S. traders, but this is a good time where lots of times we start to see FX really get quiet. If you're trading during the U.S. session, you really definitely want to be available at the New York Open, and then we still have activity going into the FIX and the London FIX, and then maybe a little bit afterwards, and quite after that, then we see the market get relatively quiet. So I thought this time this time set was far more appropriate for the wrap up, and you can see that. I mean, we're just relatively quiet. If you saw the week ahead video, I filled in for Blake this 1 week because he was still on his 4th of July holiday vacation trip, and and what I was looking for is the market to probably start out the week a little bit quiet after we'd already had a pretty good little run up here in the cash dollar index. We know that Wednesday is a big day. We've got Powell's meeting, used to be referred to as the Humphrey Hawkins meeting, but he'll be testifying in front of the Congress on Wednesday, the Senate for a second day on Thursday, which usually doesn't move the market that much. We also have Bank of Canada on Wednesday. Also, we have several Fed speakers, a couple I think on Wednesday, but actually a plethora on Thursday, though. I'd gone over those. If you watch the week ahead video, you'll actually see that. But and then of course we have CPI and PPI data, which goes in towards the last half of the week, and so I think at that point, like I said, we'll have a more definitive direction of what the dollar wants to do. We definitely got up here and moved higher with the NFP, which had a pretty good move higher based on those numbers. I think it was a 224, and they're expecting 166. So. But the only fly in the ointment was the wage gains, which came in at only 0.3, and they were looking for 0.3. I think if they would have got 0.4, it would have basically solidified the thought that, hey, they're not going to be able to cut rates. That's still on the table. The question is now 25 or 50. Certainly looks like we would ebb towards 25. But like I said, I think that where we'll see a little bit further move is going to be with the CPI and PPI data at the end of the week, because that's one of the things that's been the concern with the Fed is inflation and i.e. the lack of it. You're not even seeing it here in the wage gains either. So that still leaves that door open here. The market, as I said, has been relatively quiet. The one thing is a little bit of a surprise here, although it came into our bias chart resistance here, which is the dollar yen. You can see that we have 876 for today from this morning. And when you look at here at the dollar yen, we topped out today at what, 873. Okay, so it had not made it at that time. It was lower in the European session when we do what's our European crossover webinar, daily webinar. If you're subscriber with ForexAnalytix, you can watch that at 4 a.m. Eastern, but it's also recorded, post about an hour before the New York Open by Stelios in the chat room. So you can go on and watch and be ready for that. And we go over the scalp and short-term trading levels. So like I said, today was 876 here, the yen. I think we were around 835 or 838 at the time, actually, when we did the European crossover webinar. So we've seen this market move up. I know people are taking a little bit of a step in here. So when the market paired back, I don't think it's probably a whole lot more than just gunning some stops, although the dollar has been bid, but not, as I mentioned, I don't expect this market to take off. Not until probably maybe towards the end of the week, we may get a more definitive level, definitive move with the CPI and PPI. Cable continues to remain weak. No changes there. I mean, this market, this pair has really been under pressure. Really all the starting pairs, to be quite honest with you. Also, the Canadian dollar, remember we talked about that, an NFP day. Looking at the 30-40, we had that, I think it's 30.43, and that actually held it. And we saw a nice little rebound off of that on NFP day. But we turned around and gave that quite back. You know, see, look, 30.43. So we rallied pretty good, ran out of gas in this major 31.36 and came back. And we're just hanging around here. I don't expect a whole lot to come from this until we get to Wednesday on Bank of Canada Day. Peso has been an interesting one, and we'll get to that. And here's the analysis. Dollar peso remains mired for another week in the range of 19 to 19.23. A daily close below 18.92 will allow for a challenge of the recent lows of 18.65. Immediate resistance will be 19.11.3. When we did the bias chart today, immediate resistance is 19.08, but this 18.92, if we get a daily close below that, really opens the door for them to come down here to 18 and challenge 18.65. That's the only one, I have to say, significant mover. The euro kind of dipped a little bit, but kind of holding its own. Dollar index is kind of holding there. As I said, the risk is going into the Powell's testimony. I think after this run we had here, not that the dollar won't potentially move higher, and certainly you have to give it the benefit of the doubt, but the risk would be, you know, that Powell will still, I think he'll give the credit to the economy. It's still doing well from a growth standpoint, but like I said, we've seen PMIs and other ancillary data points that are just, they've been weak. And so what he may fall back on is, hey, look, we're not seeing any, we're seeing good job growth, but no wage gains. We're seeing, continued expansion, but no inflation. That may keep the door open. So really, if you think about it, that's the risk, and the dollar, not that I would expect a massive sell-off or even a decent sell-off, but I would expect the pie to go in and pair back from here. Looking now, we'll go in and quickly move because there's not a whole lot happening. We'll move into the cross rate page. And you can see here with the pound versus the Aussie, just trying to hang on to these lows here. This key 61%. Give me one moment. Right there, just hanging in there. It's relatively quiet, very, very, very quiet session here. Overall, really, like I said, across the board, including the cross rates, although we've, for extended moves, like look here at the Euro Aussie, we've seen some good moves overall, but like I said, some of these moves you'd be thinking that this was a 15-minute chart maybe, or a 5-minute chart. Look at that. These are 2-hour bars, and look how dead it's been. Although, like I said, if you hung on to it, it's had quite the move lower, but we're just sitting here, for lack of a better phrase, maybe consolidating here. Same thing in the Aussie yen here. This used to be a real good volatile mover, and look at this. It's just quiet as quiet can be. So on the upside, what, 75.87-ish and 75, oh my goodness gracious. So you're talking about what, about a 20 pip trading range over the last 1, 2, 3, well, last what, 9 hours or so, something like that. I mean, it's just very, very quiet here. Gold rallied back up to 1408. They've slid back down to 1395 after that pair back. But as I mentioned before, in the week ahead video, it's all about the rate expectations on this. So there we go here. Other than that, that's it. There's just not a whole lot here, to go over. Let's take a look at something real quick. So we've been essentially, like I said, a very, very quiet session here we have in place. And of course, you're going to see that with summertime. When you do see, you'll see movement, but like I said, you'll see, as like I said, that's why I think that this time is an excellent time to do the daily wrap up, because you see things quiet down quite a bit. Looking ahead, though, we do have Aussie NAB Business Conditions Index today, and that'll be at 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, 9:30 Eastern. Like I said, so the Aussie will see, would be Euro Aussie, Aussie yen, sterling Aussie, or Aussie dollar could potentially see a little bit of a move there. But other than that, that's about it. We're relatively quiet per se. So thanks for joining us here on the Daily Wrap Up. We'll catch you tomorrow.